Welcome back once again. So let us continue with this chapter introduction. So in this second video, we will try to understand what is microeconomics and what is macroeconomics, and then we will try to understand what is positive and what is normative economics, and then we will end the session with discussing the central problems of any economy. Just a recap of what we did in the first video session. We tried to understand what is an economic problem, what is an economy, and then what are the vital processes in any economy, like say production, consumption, investment, and exchange. And then we also discussed what are the different forms of economic system, like say capitalistic economy, socialistic, and then mixed economy. So now let us continue with the chapter in this video session. Now in this slide, we'll try to understand what is the difference between microeconomics and what exactly is microeconomics and macroeconomics, and we'll try to understand the distinction between these two. Okay. Now, if you see the basic definition of microeconomics, microeconomics deals with economic issues related to small economic units. Small economic units are individual economic units, like say individual firm, individual household, or individual consumer, individual producer. So any economic issues or economic problems related to individual entities comes under microeconomics. Now, if you look at macroeconomics, it deals with economic issues at the economy as a whole, which means the overall economy at a broader level. So you can say that microeconomics is at a narrower context, macroeconomics is a larger context. Okay. Second point says that it is concerned with determination of price in the market. So microeconomics is concerned with determination of price in the market. So and hence it is also called as theory of price. It is called as theory of price. So in the last chapter of your unit, we can discuss about how price is determined with the interplay of supply and demand. Here on the other side, under macroeconomics, it basically is concerned with determination of aggregate output and general price level in the economy. What is aggregate output? It's the overall production that happens in the economy. The key word here is aggregate. Aggregate means overall, total. Okay, and hence it is called as theory of income and employment. So in grade 12, you will study this in greater detail. Now, the other side under microeconomics, when you are studying microeconomics, you will assume all the macro variables as constant. What are macro variables? It can be the GDP, it can be employment, it can be general price level, or it can be inflation. All these are macro variables. We assume that all these variables remain constant when we are studying any microeconomic phenomenon. Okay. Thus, it is assumed that the general price level is constant while we are studying determination of price in the individual market. Suppose say you are studying the employment or unemployment trends in say automobile industry. So you will not you will keep the employment trends of the entire country as constant at a macro level and study only the employment trends of automobile sector. Okay, because that is a micro study. It is not a study concerning the entire country or entire economy as a whole. Now, in contrast, under macroeconomics, it assumes that the micro variables remain constant. Now, the same example we can, if we are studying the employment trends of the overall country, okay, you will not consider what is happening, what kind of employment trends are we seeing in automobile sector or in say construction sector in individually. Okay, you will keep them as constant. Okay, thus it is assumed that the distribution of GDP remains constant when we are studying the level of GDP in the economy. Now the fourth point is, what are the principal elements under microeconomics? Principal components. It is theory of consumer behavior, theory of producer behavior, and theory of price. All these are covered in your microeconomics. Consumer theory, producer theory, and theory of price, which we will study in the subsequent chapters. Here, Under macroeconomics, the principal components are theory related to equilibrium in the economy, or disequilibrium, or inflationary and deflationary gap, and monetary policy and fiscal policy and exchange rate policy. All these comes under macroeconomics. In fact, macroeconomics will be one of the books that will be prescribed for you in grade 12. So as of now, your area of interest is microeconomics. Just to summarize, microeconomics deals with individual entities, individual firms or consumers or households. It is also called as price theory. When we are doing a study of any microeconomic phenomenon, we'll assume that all the macro variables are constant. And the principal elements of microeconomics are consumer behavior, producer behavior, and theory of price. Okay. Now, with this understanding, we will proceed to one more, a few new terms for you, which is positive statements and normative statements, or positive economics versus normative economics. Broadly, what is positive economics? It involves objective and testable theories. Any economic theories which are objective and which can be tested through the use of data and facts, such economic theories are called positive economic theories. On the other hand, normative statements involves value judgments, which means opinions of people, okay, their own belief systems. Such economic theories are called normative statements. Now we will try to distinguish between positive economics and normative economics. Okay, so what is positive economics? Positive economics is based on data and facts, which means you can verify any phenomenon by using data and facts. For example, we can say that the fatality rate because of COVID-19 is say 3%. That can be verified. Or you can say that because of COVID-19, about 200 million people lost employment. Okay, you can verify. This might be true or false, but it can be verified. It doesn't mean that all positive statements need to be true. That is not the case here. But you can test them using some data and facts. On the other hand, normative economics is based on opinions and values. Okay, so for example, COVID-19 need to be controlled to arrest migration or to stop migration. You are using the word need to be controlled, which means it is your opinion. Okay, it might be true or it might not be true, but it is based on your opinion and value judgment. Okay, now here under positive economics, it is descriptive. You can actually describe a particular economic phenomenon using facts and figures, whereas it is a very narrow way of interpreting a economic issue. Okay, explains cause and effect relationship between variables. Okay, like for example, the rice production in our country has reduced by 50% because of recurrent cyclones or recurrent drought, whatever is the reason. So you can establish cause and effect relationship between economic variables. Okay, like say COVID-19 has resulted in the rise in prices of essential goods by 10%. Okay, there is a cause and effect relationship. That such kind of economic issues come under positive economics. Now you can just pass value conclusions. Okay, so which means say during the COVID-19 crisis, doctors or medical fraternity need to be or should be given greater incentives. Okay, because they worked very hard. It's a value conclusion. Now others might not agree with you. Okay, there is a chance for different interpretation in that. Okay, it is objective, it is subjective. Objective means there is no scope for multiple analysis, multiple interpretations in that. Subjective means different people can interpret it in a different way. Ask what actually is. So any positive economic statement will ask what actually is the issue involved. Okay, whereas normative statement, what ought to be, which means how a particular phenomenon should be. That is what a normative statement says. Statements can be tested or proved. Okay, so like any economic, somebody says that employment rate has decreased by 50% during COVID-19. Okay, it can be tested or it can be proved by some kind of research. Statements cannot be proved here. Okay, it cannot be proved that such kind of statement is called a normative statements. It describes economic issues. Okay, provides solutions based on value. Okay, it describes all the economic issues. It is basically a value based judgment, value based analysis. It depends upon a person's belief system, a person's ability to interpret according to his own understanding. That comes under normative economics. We will try to see some examples of positive and normative statements to make this concept little more clearer. Now, if you see here, there are some statements of positive and normative economics. Okay, let us just discuss one or two. Or second one, I'm trying to discuss this. Are oil prices contributing to a GDP slowdown? That is the statement. It can be checked through facts and figures. Okay. Now here we must try to boost disposable income. Okay, some economist is saying we must try to boost disposable income. He is saying that we have to increase disposable income. It is his opinion. Okay, it can be disputed, it can be contested. Okay, so another statement we will see. Okay, raising tax on beer will have a negative effect on the profits of brewers, he is saying. Now this can be true or it can be false, but it can be verified with facts and data, and hence it is a positive economic statement. Okay, now if we look at this statement, unemployment is more harmful than inflation. Now on what basis a particular person is saying this, we don't know, but it is his belief, his understanding is more harmful than inflation. Okay, it is based on his opinion. It's an opinion based statement. Such statements come under normative economics. You can read all these statements to make this distinction little more clearer for you. Okay. Now, the last component of today's video is what are the central problems of the economy. Any economy faces certain core problems. Now, what are those central problems? Okay. First problem that any economy faces is what to produce and in what quantity. Okay. We discussed in the first video, any economy will have hundreds of requirements. Like for example, take India. India has a need to produce food items, it has to produce capital goods, it has to produce consumer goods, it has to produce premium houses, cars for different categories of people. It also has to produce medicines. Hundreds and thousands of requirements will be there in any economy. Okay, but resources are not unlimited, right? So that is where the first problem comes. What to produce and how much in what quantity. Okay. Now when we say what to produce, should the economy focus on producing luxury goods or inferior goods or capital goods? What are capital goods? Capital goods are the goods which helps in the production of different kinds of goods like heavy machinery. Okay. All these are called capital goods, or consumer goods which are used for regular consumption. So what should an economy use its resources to produce what kind of goods and in what quantity? Okay, if suppose India is not a very rich country, if all our resources are used to produce luxury goods, that will be a wastage of resources. That is not a right prudent use of our resources. So there's a first problem that any economy faces. What is the second problem? How are these goods to be produced? How should we, okay, now that we decided we have to focus more on capital goods. Now, how should we produce these goods? Which means what kind of technique should we use? Should we use a labor intensive technique or a capital intensive technique? When I say labor intensive, especially in India, there are so many people without gainful employment. So it is always better we use labor intensive technique. In many European countries or many other advanced countries where there is shortage of labor, they can go for capital intensive technique, which means they can use heavy machinery, they can use automation to produce different kinds of goods. So second problem is what kind of technique of production should be used, whether it is labor intensive or capital intensive. The third problem that an economy faces is for whom to produce. Okay, now we decided we will produce capital goods, we will use a labor intensive technique, but who is our target consumer? How should we, for whom should we produce? Distribution of income among all factors of production. So should we produce for a low income population, or should we produce for consumers who can afford it, or should we make it available or accessible to everybody? So that is the issue here, for whom to produce. Okay, now in most of your books you will find only these three, but nowadays I think even the fourth one is very important. It is not the first three problems alone. The fourth problem that all the economies are facing these days is growth of resources and sustainable development. Okay, our development, we have to produce in such a way that our development is sustainable, which means we are not compromising on our needs of our future generation. Okay, for example, we decided to produce capital goods using labor intensive technique for say middle income or vast majority of a population, but in the process we polluted our rivers, we used our land in a harmful way, we polluted our resources, then that is not a right way of economic development. All our processes should be sustainable environmentally also. They should not deplete our resources so that our future generations will suffer. Okay, so these three problems primarily, this 1, 2 and 3, these are the central problems of the economy. Fourth one is currently in recent times we are discussing with greater emphasis, because this is also very important. Okay, so just a quick recap of what we did in this video session. We tried to understand and distinguish between what is macroeconomics and microeconomics, and then we tried to understand what is positive and what is normative economics. Okay, then of course we ended the session by understanding what are the central problems of the economy. So I want all of you to go to the classwork and then finish the classwork. My suggestion is, please keep reading again and again what we discuss, so that you can consolidate your understanding of what all we are discussing. So this is the end of video 2. So please follow up this video with your classwork in the journal. Okay, thank you.